All right, guys. Today we're going to be on page 25. We're going to be talking about 4 definitions. They're also at the front of the page of your packet and as well as up on the wall. So let's go ahead and start off with complementary angles. Complementary angles are 2 angles whose sum is 90 degrees. They do not have to be adjacent. They can be 2 separate angles, as for example in the first diagram. Those 2 angles are separate from each other, but those 2 angles are complementary because they add up to 90. So angle FED plus angle BAC equals 90 degrees. Same thing with the second diagram. The only difference is this one is adjacent. That means remember that they're right next to each other. Angle HOP or hop plus angle POT. 50 plus 40 is obviously 90, so those are also complementary angles. If you were to want to mark up this diagram, remember a 90-degree angle is also a right angle, so you can put that box inside the big angle HOT. Okay, next one is supplementary angles. Those are 2 angles whose sum is 180 degrees. The way I remember it is supplementary and straight lines are both 180, and they both start with an S. So straight lines are also equal to 180. However, it doesn't need to be a straight line. They can be non-adjacent like in the first diagram. So angle MLK, which is 120 degrees, plus angle NOP is going to equal 180. 120 plus 60 is 180. As you can see in the second diagram, they're adjacent, and they also create a straight line, which would be HAN. The 2 angles that create the straight line are angles HAD. So had an angle DAN. Or Dan. 140 plus 40 is obviously 180. So those angles are also supplementary. Okay, we're going to see if we can do a couple examples. Let's go ahead and do example 1. It says angle M is complementary to angle N. The measure of angle M equals X plus 15. That's going to be my first angle I'm going to create. So let's draw angle M like this. And then call that X plus 15 degrees. And then let's draw a measure of angle N like this and call that 3x plus 11. We're told they're complementary, so this diagram is not drawn to scale, but it's okay as long as you know that x plus 15 plus 3x plus 11 equals complementary, which means it's going to be 90 degrees. Combine like terms, you get 4x plus 26 equals 90. Subtract 26 oops, sorry, subtract 26 from both sides. You end up with 4x is equal to 64, I believe. Divided by 4 by both sides, you end up with x is equal to 18 degrees. Don't forget the degrees. So the measure of angle M, we're not done. We got to plug in that x back into the measure of angle M to find the total angle. You're going to get 18 plus 15 is going to get you 33 degrees. So the measure of angle M is 33 because complementary angles. Okay, next one. This time we're given supplementary angles. I'm not going to draw the diagram this time. I can just know that measure of angle C plus measure of angle D is going to equal 180 because it's supplementary. So I'm going to get 10x minus 4 for measure of angle C. And then for measure of angle D, plus 6 plus 6 plus 8, 6 plus 8 equals 180. Combine like terms as your first step. 16x plus 4 equals 180. Subtract 4 from both sides, you're going to get 16x is equal to 176. And then when you divide 16 by both sides, you're going to get you're going to get 11. So x is equal to 11. So it's just basic algebra we've been doing with segments. Now we're just applying it to angles. Okay, next page, we are going to talk about, we are going to talk about linear pairs and vertical angles. So linear pairs are two adjacent angles that form a straight line. Linear pairs are supplementary because they form a line, a straight line. So remember, straight line equals 180. Supplementary also is 180. Okay, in our diagram, C and D, angle C and angle D, they're not congruent. I just created those wings to indicate which angles I'm talking about. That's a linear pair because it obviously forms a straight line when you combine those angles. If you were to add an x and a y right here, x and y would be a linear pair. X and C would be a linear pair, and D and Y would be a linear pair. If you notice, all of those can make a straight line, the ones I mentioned. Okay, so angle C and angle D are linear pairs. So the difference between a linear pair and supplementary angles is that supplementary angles don't need to be adjacent. Linear pairs do have to be adjacent. Supplementary pairs can also be adjacent, but they don't have to. So measure of angle C plus measure of angle D is going to give you 180 by definition of a straight line. Okay, next thing we're going to talk about is vertical angles. Those are two angles that are across each other at the intersection of, of two lines. And vertical angles are congruent. That's the important part about vertical angles. They're always equal to each other. So in our diagram, as you can see, angle A is directly across from angle B. That means those are vertical angles. And this time I am going to indicate that they're congruent by drawing that wing for both of them. And let's say I were to call this X and this other angle Y. These would also be congruent to each other. This time I'm drawing two wings. That's a little sloppy. Okay. I try to connect the wings to the rays so it looks more identifiable. Okay. And those are the only two vertical angles, X and Y and A and B. They have to be directly across from each other. So angle A is congruent to angle B. That means the measure of angle A is equal to the measure of angle B. So if this was 70, this would have to be 70. So if measure of angle A was 70, what would measure of angle X be? We could figure it out because it's a straight line. It's a linear pair. That means they have to add up to 180. That means this would be 110 degrees. And Y would also be 110 degrees. These types of problems will arise a lot, so that's why I went ahead and added some more details to that diagram. Let's go ahead and do two more examples, and that will do it. So scrolling down. Okay, Example 3. Solve for X and explain. Then find the obtuse angle. Okay, let's just start off with the beginning. X, we got two angles that they gave us. Those are vertical angles, so that means these two angles are going to be congruent. I'm going to make it more visible. I added my wings. That means you can set these two angles equal to each other by the definition of vertical angles. I'm just going to write this for your guys' reference. Vertical angles. X plus 16 is going to equal 4x plus 5. 4x minus 5. If you get messed up on the algebra, take it one step at a time. I first get all my x's to one side. I end up with 3x minus 5 on my left is equal to 16. The mistake that most people do is that I've seen is that they start subtracting by 16 to both sides. You don't want to do that because you want to get your x solo. So you want to get rid of that 5, not the 16. So you're going to add 5 to both sides to end up with 21 is equal to 3x. And then you end up with x is equal to 7 after you divide by 3. So x equals 7. And now we want to find the obtuse angle. So let's go ahead and plug x into one of my vertical angles. Doesn't matter which one because they're both the same. I'm going to plug it into here. 7 plus 16 is going to give you 23 or sorry, just a sec, not now. 7 plus 16 is going to give you 23. That means the other vertical angle is going to be 23. So that is not the obtuse angle because that is an acute angle. So the obtuse angle is going to be this angle in red, which would be 180 minus 23. The reason why I did 180 minus 23 is because both of these have to add up. The green and the red have to add up to 180. So 180 minus 23 gives you 67, I believe. No, sorry, 157. So so my obtuse angle is 157 degrees. Okay, last example. Solve for y and explain, then find the acute angle. Okay. These two angles are not vertical angles, but they are a linear pair. That means they are going to add up to 180. So for this case, we're not going to set them equal to each other. We're going to add these two. So we get 10y. So let me just go ahead and put this. This is a linear pair. We get 10y plus 30 plus 4y minus 18 equals 180. Go ahead and combine like terms. 14y plus 12 equals 180. Subtract 12 from both sides. You get 14y is equal to 168. And I believe you end up with y is equal to 12. Okay. So if y is 12, I am going to go ahead and plug it into this angle to see if that's going to be my obtuse angle. So only one of them is going to be obtuse. So this is kind of a hit or miss. If the first one you end up trying is not an obtuse angle, then it's obviously the other one. So one has to be obtuse, one has to be acute. So let's go ahead and plug that in. So 10 times 12 plus 30 is going to give me 120 plus 30 is 150. 150 degrees is obviously... Oh, sorry, we're looking for the acute angle. 150 degrees is obviously not the acute. So this one is not my acute. That means the 4y minus 18 is going to be my acute. And I am going to go ahead and solve for that. 4 times 12 minus 18. You end up with 48 minus 18, which gives you 30 degrees. You probably didn't have to plug it in because if this is 150, it has to add up to 180, so this has to be 30. That's another way to do it. I just took the long way. So make sure you guys read the problem accurately and see what they're looking for. As you see, I was looking for an obtuse at the beginning, but they were asking for acute. Okay, other than that, that is it.